Oh, it might be helpful at this point to discuss some of the counterproductive ideas people early in recovery sometimes bring to their search for God. There are some conceptualizations of a higher power that might not provide the needed power to get sober. For example, on page 45, Bill cautions us. He says, to others, the word God brought up this particular idea of him with someone they tried to impress them during childhood. Perhaps they rejected that particular conception because it seemed inadequate, and with that rejection, they thought they were done with God altogether. So get the picture in your mind. Many folks, as youngsters, mama, grandma, somebody takes you to church for a while, or whatever house of worship you get engaged in, and you start to learn some things. Then at 12, 13, and 14, just get a little bit too big for some of that stuff. Okay? And you start going on your own, and you start drinking and drugging and doing all that sort of thing. And then at 25, 30, 35, you start getting sober, and somebody says to you, oh, you got to find a God of your understanding. And all I have is my 10-year-old ideas of God. Wholly inadequate. Wholly inadequate. And I've rejected it. But have I begun to realize that there's more to it than 10-year-old ideas? This is a key piece a lot of people stumble over. Because I know, but I did that God thing a long time. I'm done with it. It's like, no, I don't think you've done it as an adult. Have you started to really embrace the notion that you can have an adult relationship with a power greater than yourself? And again, I'm not trying to be too specific in the definition of that power at this point. But there are lots of ideas about a higher power that just don't work in the long run. Some people are distracted by what I call a vampire God. That's a God who sucks all the fun out of life. I don't know about you, but most of the alcoholics and addicts I know require some fun in life, frequently more fun than average, all right? And others believe in what I've come to call the assassin God, okay? This is the one who swiftly punishes those who've committed some offense with a tragedy or hardship of one kind or another. I've heard phrases like, well, I know the reason I got into this car accident this week is because I lied about being sick at work last week. And I go, are you a dog that peed on the rug and you needed to get smacked? Is that what you're telling me? Like, is that the kind of power you want to engage with around staying alive, clean, and sober? So in other words, as I said, we talked about kid ideas and inadequate ideas. Some folks need to challenge some of their thoughts about what it is, some of their absolute beliefs about what they believe it is about. In their search for higher power, some have spent time worshiping at the altars of wealth, power, influence, sex, relationships, and work. But by honestly admitting that they have a need to search for a higher power, they are also admitting that they are not God themselves. Staying clean and sober requires addicts and alcoholics to find a new higher power that supplant the power that alcohol and drugs had over them. So where do you find this power? Know the answer to that? Well, that's exactly what this book is about. This is written by Bill in the Big Book. Its main object is to enable you to find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. And I always point out to newcomers that it doesn't say, help you find a power greater than yourself, which will help you solve your problem. But this power itself will solve your problem. Now you're saying, okay, how pushy are you getting at me, Jerry? Let's stay with the notion. Keep thinking about some power out there bigger than myself. In working to understand a higher power, many find it helpful to begin on a simple level by realizing that there are many higher powers in your life. Lots and lots of them. Let me give you a few examples. For example, while in active addiction, many of us allowed alcohol and drugs to become our higher power as we slavishly allowed substances to make significant decisions for us. Decisions like who we'd spend time with, how we'd spend our money, what are the kind of things we'd do. Similarly, the police department is a higher power. Because if you want to follow the law, you're going to be wearing the bracelets and sitting in the back seat of the squad car and have very little to say about it. The Internal Revenue Service is a higher power. You don't pay your taxes, they're going to clean out your bank account. If you're having trouble with your car, your auto mechanic is a higher power, unless you yourself are gifted in that area, because they can do something I can't do by myself. See, that's the concept we want everybody to begin to embrace. Is that I don't need to think about Supreme Being in the universe if I don't want to. I need to think about the fact I need something bigger than me. Maybe several somethings bigger than me. And it starts to change the dynamic and the way we think about it. The trouble is, all those higher powers I just described to you are not the kind that are going to get you clean and sober. So once atheists and agnostics begin to understand that the focus of spirituality and 12-step recovery is merely finding a power greater than themselves to solve the problem, it gets easier for some to embrace. Some of all the higher powers that people find in their lives, which is going to be ineffective at keeping them. So what of all the higher powers, which of these are going to be effective at keeping them clean and sober? Many newcomers choose to think of their AA or NA group as a higher power. So for instance, Bill notes in the 12 and 12, he says, you can, if you wish, make AA itself your higher power. There's a very large group of people who've solved their problem. In this respect, they're certainly power greater than you, and who have not even come close to a solution. Surely you can have some faith in them. So Bill is suggesting something that is rather challenging, rather unique at the time.